What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
What's up, Fantasy Points? It is week 17. We are back for the Fantasy Championship Week edition of Outside the Box. I am here with Fantasy Point CEO, Master of Dank Stats, my friend Scott Barrett. We're going to be breaking down the slate for Draftkings tournaments, starting with quarterbacks, then running backs, receivers, tight ends. We'll make some lineups at the end. We're going to be going through kind of poking holes in chalk or deciding that chalk is good, and then talking about some of our more off-the-wall plays that we like for tournaments. Scott, just a 9-game slate here. Are you excited about this one?
I am. The shorter slates like this are always my favorite. And then I always like the main slates after the holidays because, you know, our competition is out there opening presents, spending time with their family, watching beloved, cherished movies.
Not
but
us.
Not me. I'm a loser. I live in my mom's basement, and I was grinding main slate data and writing the slate breakdown on Christmas, the day after Christmas, this morning. And so I see a nice little edge for us. Although, you know, we had a surprise outside the box episode. I don't know if anyone tuned in for it on Christmas Eve. And that was maybe my worst slate of all time. That was humiliating. That was Cowboys won by only one score.
Oh, that's right.
Max Brosmer destroyed. Well, he didn't, but the Lions did not show up at all.
No, you didn't like Jared Goff. You kept on like not even talking about Jared Goff, and I was like, "What is going on here? Why are you not talking about Jared Goff?" You were totally right about that.
Yeah, but I didn't think the Vikings would score a single touchdown. I thought, they would implode. And even the Broncos, they won, but only by one score, and a game they just really played keep away the whole time. And so like the winning lineup was like Cavante Turpin, and like you had to fade Pickens, just about everyone who, you know, I like. So yeah, really weird. One of my worst slates ever. So hopefully we can turn things around.
How could you feel bad about that? Like nobody was like, "Oh yeah, Turpin is the guy you need." He just happened to be the guy. Is Turpin scored one really long touchdown. I think that might have been his only
target.
Yeah. Jordan Addison had one really long touchdown. I think that was his only target of the game. Just like, I mean, it was just kind of a weird slate. I don't think like you got it wrong. You have to feel bad. Like, oh, I was totally wrong about, you know, how it would play out. Just like that, it just like played out in a super chaotic way that was unpredictable. But you were not in on Jared Goff, so that was, at least I would say you were right about Jared Goff. I was kind of in on him. I was like, if nobody wants to play Jared Goff, give me some Jared Goff. I did end up playing a lot of the Vikings defense also, which that worked out. But yeah, for the most part, not my best Christmas efforts in DFS. But we're going to turn around this week.
But yeah, I like this slate. I always like these slates, but I especially like this one. And so, like I said, you know, people kind of distracted with the holidays. I don't think they're on their A game. I don't think they're well researched. And so what happens when you have a small slate like this, you have more people just embracing the herd mentality, not really thinking for themselves. And you see extremely high concentration in, you know, the chalky plays. And so like a good play like Ashton Jeanty is a good play is going to be steamed to 60%. And at 60%, he's a bad play. And so you're going to see that with quite a few players on this week's slate. I talked to the great Darren Manser, who updated ownership projections a couple of maybe an hour or so ago. So yeah, and we spent a lot of time Friday in the projections call. I think we're gonna have a good edge this slate. What was it, like week 11 or 12? I was feeling really cocky. I was up maybe 3x my buy-in from the start of the season. And I've slowly dwindled down to just about my initial buy-in, you know, a little bit of a cold streak lately. I might just let it all rip this week because, you know, week 18 it could sometimes be like the best slate, but it could also be the worst slate. Just because there's so much up in the air where I really don't have like the best answers. Like, are they going to play this guy? Are they going to go all out to win? We don't really know. So this might be, you know, the last great slate of the year.
Yeah.
What do you think, Neil?
No, I agree with that. I think this is like week 18 is too much chaos. Like, I like some question marks, some unknowns. trying to lean in where I think people are going to get it wrong. But it's like there's just so many potential landmines in week 18 that it's just like you just got to avoid those landmines. So this one, I agree. This should be a fun slate. I'm looking forward to it. Curious to hear which chalk you think is good versus bad if we're on the same page on this one. Yeah, we can start with the quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence getting 17% ownership, the highest owned quarterback. Sauce Gardner back for the Colts. How are we feeling about Trevor Lawrence?
I'm feeling pretty good. I think he's a great play. But I mean 17% maybe is a little, you could argue maybe a little high. Just, that's how this slate typically goes. But I mean, like digging into the matchup, the numbers, I was a big Trevor Lawrence hater, but I saw it, the Titans game. I'm like, he looked really good. And then the next week I'm like, he looked great. And then that's when the fantasy points started turning on. And so since week 12, 28.7 fantasy points per game. That's 5.5 more than any other quarterback. He has 10 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. You have this thing that we had with Baker Mayfield last year. This is a Liam Cohen thing where he lets his quarterbacks be like insanely greedy in the red zone. Over this hot streak, Jacksonville, the second most pass heavy offense by P-Row inside the red zone. And then on top of that, he's getting all these rushing touchdowns inside the red zone. Yeah, I'm a Trevor Lawrence truther now. Like it was never emotional. Jaguars fans just thought I was jealous of his hair or something. No, I just thought he played poorly for 70 games and then he's looked amazing. And, I was always of the opinion that we were overrating the importance of non-elite quarterbacks relative to elite offensive play callers. I think Liam Cohen is elite. You look at the like playing at a super elite level, great level for fantasy, all the things you want to see, pass heavy, aggressiveness, running inside the red zone. But he gets a Colts defense that's giving up the third most passing yards per game. I don't think the Sauce Gardner return really changes anything outside of they're going to play more man coverage. They just gave up 5 touchdowns to Brock Purdy last week. They have no pass rush. That really matters for Trevor Lawrence, one of the most pressure sensitive quarterbacks in the game. We could say, oh, maybe Grandpa Rivers doesn't push back. Again, I don't think that matters given the P-Row aggressiveness I cited earlier. DeForest Buckner's out. And so, yeah, like if you just, threw out ownership and asked me to single out the best quarterback play of the slate, it's Trevor Lawrence. And looking at our projections, yeah, maybe 17% is too low if you sort by fantasy points per dollar there.
Interesting. He is not the one that I would single out as the best quarterback play on the slate. For me, that would be number 2. Joe Burrow would be the one that stands out to me. I think that's going to be common for a lot of people, for Joe Burrow to stand out just from that game having such a high total. Both teams could stay competitive, and we're just expecting them to sling it. But yeah, I think you make a great case for Trevor Lawrence. He's not one of the quarterbacks that I was like, this ownership looks too low, but yeah, with DeForest Buckner out, them throwing a lot, I get it. I guess I can understand why people want to play a lot of Trevor Lawrence. With you being, of course, Trevor Lawrence's biggest fan, of course, it makes sense that you're going to be a big Trevor Lawrence guy. Loving those number 1 quarterbacks as usual. I believe Joe Burrow, I assume, was also a number 1 draft pick. It's been so long that I don't even remember. How do you feel about Joe Burrow? Are you with me that he's also a great player, or are you not as in on that one?
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence is the cash quarterback of the week, but you're talking about ceiling. Who breaks the slate? I think you have to put not just Burrow, but Cincy, Arizona game stacks at the top of that list. I love Burrow. Do I like him more than Jacoby Brissett? I'm still trying to work that out, but I really like both. So Burrow's played 4 games since he returned from injury. He sucked in 2 of them, or he underwhelmed in 2 of them, both coincidentally against Baltimore without T. Higgins. But in the other 2 games, basically 300 plus passing yards, 4 touchdowns in each of them, against Buffalo and against Miami. And so you look at the game environment, super elite, Slate's highest implied point total, big shootout potential, highest over under the slate by 5 points. One hole you could poke in this, Neil, is why don't you pull up schedule adjusted? I know by schedule adjusted, Arizona is actually a really sneaky bad. Why don't you do all instead of last 5?
Yeah.
is a sneaky, really bad matchup for wide receivers. I forget where it looks for quarterbacks. What is it? Just middle of the pack? If you control F, Cincy maybe.
Yep. So middle of the pack for quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Looks like slightly
But then you look at for outside wide receivers. Click it again so it's reversed. Or just
bottom 4 matchup.
Bottom 4, which really surprised me. But an extra note here is Buda Baker's out. That's big. And then they have 4 additional defensive backs, either out or questionable, 3 cornerbacks, another safety. And so this matchup probably a little bit better than it's been. And again, really, I think the key part of that is just, games being sort of over at halftime. And luckily Cincinnati's defense is so bad that, I'm predicting a shootout, but because I am predicting a shootout, I have to give a shout out to Jacoby Brissett, who's 800 cheaper than Burrow, drawing a little bit less ownership. Last week was the first game all year Jacoby Brissett did not finish as a top 12 fantasy quarterback, but he is averaging 21.1 DraftKings fantasy points per game across his starts. That would rank behind only Josh Allen, although he's 1,100 cheaper than the Slate's QB2. This is a top 3 matchup, easy top 3 matchup for Brissett, not by schedule adjusted, but by EPA per dropback allowed, by fantasy points per dropback allowed. Like I said, highest over under the slate by 5 points, and the stack is easy. So to me, I think it's just whatever the stack fits best with. I'm going to try to get to Burrow, but if I can't, I'm not really going to be mad at it if I can get to Brissett. Or are you much more confident in Burrow?
Well, I agree with you that I'm going to be playing a lot of both. So those are 2 of my top 4 quarterbacks. I do like the idea of just trying to force it in with Burrow, like doing actually Burrow with Chase and Higgins and Trey McBride. I think I'm going to try to force in that stack just because it's so difficult to get to and has such high potential. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, you can just go to the Brissett side. I think he's also should put up a lot of fantasy points. You can kind of just do a 1-1 stack with Trey McBride. You don't have to worry necessarily about the wide receivers with I forget who their cornerback is on the Bengals, but they have that one DJ Reed. One awesome cornerback who shuts down top receivers. Who knows? I mean, maybe he covers Trey McBride. I guess I don't know if that's gonna.
No, that's not gonna happen.
Okay. So yeah, I think it's just you just do with Trey McBride. I suppose they also, it's kind of unclear at this point who is the top receiver on the Cardinals, with Michael Wilson emerging. I think it's still probably Marvin Harrison is the one that they will have DJ Reed on. But yeah, no, I think Brissett also a great play. I think I like the idea of going to Burrow just because we haven't seen the same upside from Brissett, and I think it's going to be really difficult for people to get to the Burrow double. So I think a lot of people are going to just pivot to, you know what, I can't get to Burrow with Higgins and Chase and McBride, so I'll just use Brissett there instead. And obviously it makes sense, but also it's going to be more. I think it's going to be less common for people to get to the full game stacks with Burrow. So I'm going to try to force it some, but no, I think they're both great plays. I'm with you. One note is that there will be some weather potentially. Sounds like there's going to be sustained winds over 15 miles per hour, and then some gusts that are higher. So I think that is something that we'll have to pay attention to. It's possible that we are going to have some weather concerns in this game. Moving on, I guess we skipped over Drake May. Drake May 6,800 projected for 12% ownership against the Jets, who have become kind of that defense that you want to target. Do you think they're going to be throwing it though, or do you think they're going to be on the ground more? How are you feeling about Drake May?
So that's a big question. I think in a vacuum, you can't deny he's a strong value. He's been unbelievable this year. He's currently second in MVP voting. He's been great for fantasy, 21.2 DraftKings fantasy points per game. That's second best on the slate. He's not priced like it. The ceiling hasn't been as good this year, but he is coming off of a season high 29 DraftKings fantasy points last week. This matchup is amazing. The Jets are just so awful. Vegas is aware of it. The Patriots have the second highest implied point total of the slate. And so what you asked me is, well, are they just is there really any impetus to try? Is it just going to be Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson soaking up all the rushing touchdowns? One angle that's, I think, really important on a slate like this is what if Mike Vrabel, a former player, a player's coach, tries to get him that MVP, because it's really close between him and Matthew Stafford. And we did see this week 17, 2023, Lamar Jackson went up against the Miami Dolphins. That game was over after the first quarter, and Lamar Jackson was still throwing his 5th touchdown pass in the 4th quarter of that game. And so that's one of these things where, like, what's the probability that Vrabel actually pulls him aside and goes, hey, you're scoring every touchdown today. Let's get you that MVP. Say it's 10%, 5%. The impact it has on the slate is so much more than that, that you really have to talk about it. I like Drake May on DraftKings, but I love him on FanDuel. If I were, you know me, I'm a 3 max, 5 max lineup guy. If I was doing that on FanDuel, I might just go 100% Drake May, because not only is he a top value there, a better value on FanDuel, but so is Stephon Diggs, so is Hunter Henry. And with all the wide receiver injuries, we can feel better about those 2 players than we have all year. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm kind of getting my Drake May exposure on FanDuel. But he's still a great play on DraftKings as well.
Yeah, I love that. Also, like, I think that just generally the Patriots are better on like half PPR than full PPR, just because you don't really get the guys who get their, 12 targets in a game that often with the Patriots. So I love that angle of playing it on FanDuel. But yeah, I'll be playing it on DraftKings also. Don't like it as much as the Burrow and Jacoby Brissett, but I certainly will be playing some of the Patriots angle. Then you've got kind of an interesting one in the Tank Bowl with Jackson Dart facing the Raiders. Seems like both teams really want to lose this game. Like, they are actively trying to lose this game. What does that mean for Jackson Dart? Do you agree with me that they're actively trying to lose this game based on their inactives that they've already announced? I know you're a Giants fan. How are you feeling about Jackson Dart this week?
I think I disagree.
Okay. You don't think they're trying to tank?
I think I disagree. So as a Giants fan, I know that they never lose when they're supposed to. They never lose when you want them to lose. With the Raiders, it's different. It's like Max Crosby, Brock Bowers, we're playing every week and then not on the injury report at all. And then it's like, oh, actually, surprise, they're out. Whereas, yeah, Andrew Thomas, their best offensive player, isn't playing, but he got seriously hurt last week. Evan Neal's been hurt all year. Theo Johnson, I actually don't know about, but certainly the offensive line injuries not coming as a surprise, not explicitly tanking related. So let me give you the argument for Jackson Dart, where if we're making Millie lineups, he's my favorite. I didn't write it up this way in the slate breakdown because he's not the site's favorite, but he is my favorite for the Millie, which is large field, lean into variance. So prior to last week was effing awful, but wasn't really a surprise to us. Brian Flores is a god. That's an elite defense, especially difficult for rookie quarterbacks. They didn't try at all. They didn't try and throw it all. And they sort of just punted things, right? But Jackson Dart, before that, had finished top 12 in every start. Over his previous 6 games, he was averaging 25 fantasy points per game, which would lead all quarterbacks on this slate, more than Josh Allen, who's 1,600 more than Jackson Dart is. This is a great matchup, unlike a worst possible Vikings matchup. This is an elite schematic matchup, as Ryan Heath points out in advanced matchups. And so a lot of this comes down to, are the Giants going to try? Maybe even more importantly, are they going to let him run? Because that's been a big narrative in New York. He's gotten a concussion check, spent time in the blue medical tent in nearly 50% of his starts this season, which is just a crazy number. And so there was a bunch of WFAN radio voices were kind of talking about how Brian Dable set him up for success, and now he's being set up for failure. They're not maximizing the playbook towards his talents. And so he liked one of these and it became news, New York Post, how New York media is. And so he was at the podium a couple of days ago. He was asked about this, and he said, yeah, with a big grin, he said, yeah, I communicated with the coaching staff about what I want for the offense. And let me tell you, my voice has been heard. I'm feeling really good about it. I'm really excited to show you, everything we can do this week. So maybe they're tanking, Theo Johnson's out, a bunch of offensive linemen are out, but Jackson Dart doesn't seem to think so. And I don't know that they're tanking as hard as the Max Crosby list Raiders. And so it's just leaning into that upside, because before that Vikings game, when they were letting him run, he was outproducing Josh. He was outproducing everyone, and, he's super cheap. And so there is the potential here where there's a tanking Raiders team versus, Jackson Dart balling out. So this is a little bit narrative, a little bit galaxy brain. And like I said, this is sort of me versus fantasy points consensus, when I think certainly for the past 4 or 6 weeks, fantasy points consensus has been beating me. Oh, by the way, I have a legendary Neil Ass play. You guys have to listen to the whole show. It's going to be later on, but I think I've got a great Neil Ass play later on. All
right. I'm excited to hear the Neil Ass play. No, I like the Dart call. I'm with you 100% on playing Dart. I don't love that Andrew Thomas is out. Like, obviously you'd love to have a fully healthy offense against Max.
Maybe he runs more, but it's also like Raiders without Max Crosby. That's a bottom 2 pass rush.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm totally with you on Jackson Dart. Love the upside here. Love the matchup. Looks great.
So this was my favorite Millie, but if you sort by fantasy points per dollar, you will see Jake, Ryan, Chris Wex, Graham Barfield's favorite. And that's Tyler Shuck. This is just kind of a great way to find under-owned options. And you just sort by fantasy point per dollar, and it's like, who is most out of line. And so, yeah, Tyler Shuck is our second best point per dollar value, but only showing 6% ownership. He's been better every single week. Nice, steady upward trajectory. He's coming off of season highs in total yards, 304 and then 316. He's averaging 20 DraftKings fantasy points per game over his last 4 with a low of 18.1. Volume's really good over that span. Second in dropbacks, leads all quarterbacks in design runs. So he's running. That's important. And then he just gets the best possible matchup. If you exclude the Chris Turducken Chiefs, the Titans would be the best schedule adjusted matchup for quarterbacks since week 8.
Yeah. I mean, it's also like just looking, I pulled up pass rate over expectation, the Titans team's biggest pass funnel in the NFL. And it's more so recently. So looks like a fantastic spot for Tyler Shuck. Would you still have interest if Chris Olave ends up sitting?
No.
Okay. Then we're off the Shuck train. In that case, that makes sense.
How serious is that risk?
I don't think it's that serious. I think I actually read that it was.
I think he practiced in full all week, right? Unless something popped up today, I missed.
He was questionable as of yesterday, but I believe they said really? Like it's just that they're expecting him to play. So I think it's a very, very minimal risk, but he is on the injury report, at least as of yesterday.
Yeah. Chris Olave back being limited in practice was just precautionary, expected to be full go on Sunday. Okay.
Nice. Okay. So, I mean, we've talked about the top, 6 quarterbacks here. Then you got Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield. I think the only other quarterback that I have serious interest in is Baker Mayfield. I don't think I'm going to anybody with any kind of volume below the top 8 here. Do you have any below the top 8 that you're super into?
I wrote up Geno Smith just because he's so cheap. He's 4,400, and you can stack him up with Michael Mayer, and that's just like 12% of your total salary. And so, yeah, like they're benching their star players, and like the owner really wants them to get the first overall pick because that's worth a lot. But teams don't actually tank in the NFL. Like that's not a real thing. And like every player, Geno Smith is going all out to win. And this is a bad Giants defense. But I don't like him nearly as much as all of the other players we talked about. Baker Mayfield, my concern for him is just, I think he's hurt. I think he's been hurt since week 7, and he's only adding new injuries. Only Shedeur Sanders ranks worse by catchable throw rate, completion percentage over expectation. But I do think, the upside is there. He's shown that even a hobbled Baker Mayfield has upside. But I do have a clear favorite contrarian quarterback. But I want to see if you get there.
All right. So we're not inside the top 8 anymore. Who does Scott like as a contrarian quarterback? It's Josh Allen. It's got to be Josh Allen.
You got it. You nailed it. It's just who has 50 burger upside. Only Josh Allen on this slate. No one wants to play him. And so 2% ownership. If he has that 50 burger, that is huge. And like both teams are playing for seeding. This game matters. Would it really surprise you if this was a shootout? I know Josh Allen's tough to stack, but AJ Brown, Devonta Smith are decent values who are coming in under owned. And so there's upside there. I just stack them up with Josh Allen. You could also play Jalen Hurts, but I definitely prefer Josh Allen.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that one. My first run at this, I didn't think about Josh Allen, and then I'm thinking about who would.
I don't think anyone has, and that's what we keep saying about this slate is like they're going to get a lot wrong. They're going to be a lot of, overly confident in their opinion. So that's a good angle.
Yeah, no, that's a great call. Obviously a tough Philadelphia defense, but we don't really care about how tough the matchup is with Josh Allen. We just care if he's going to be pushed, and you'd think that Philadelphia should be able to push him some. So yeah, I like that. I like that shout. Anybody else?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think I'm good from there also. So move on to running backs. Look at that. Ashton Genty projected for 50% ownership. Now we just saw him have an awesome game. Now he's against this run funnel Giants defense. He's 6,100. How are we feeling about the 50% ownership going to Ashton Genty?
So, I was excited to write him up earlier in the week, not looking at ownership. He was coming off of a great game, 25 touches, 188 yards from scrimmage, 2 touchdowns, all against the league's best defense. Although he largely sucked outside of that. I think he only had one other good game all year. Everything else was awful. But he gets a Giants defense that is giving up the second most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to running backs. Better yet, they rank dead last in adjusted yards before contact per attempt. And that's really the big thing with Genty. We know he's a super talented running back, but he's been saddled with by far the league's worst offensive line. And so Ryan Heath had a number of dang stats on this, where, when on runs where he's, first contact is brought a yard beyond the line of scrimmage, he's actually one of the most efficient running backs in the league. It's just those events are occurring far less often than for any other running back because of this offensive line. That was his stat. My stat was, all right, Giants ranked dead last by adjusted yards before contact per attempt. He only had one other matchup against a team ranking bottom 7. It was the Bears, who ranked second worst, just behind the Giants. What happened in that game? 6.6 yards per carry, 155 yards from scrimmage, 3 touchdowns. This is, Vegas thinks this game is close. Genty sees about a 25% boost in XFP per game in wins as opposed to losses. Raheem Mostert's banged up. And so you have all that, but you have to juxtapose it. You have to contrast it with 50% projected ownership for a player who's largely sucked this year on a team that may or may not be tanking. The way I play and how aggressive I am, I'm very comfortable full fading Ashton Genty at 50% and then gaining a significant leg up on the rest of the field. I don't really like Tyrone Tracy. Our projections actually think he's a really good play, but because of my disdain for Ashton Genty at 50% ownership, I do like Tracy more. And so they're both playing in the 4:00 window. So he's also a great late swap option for leverage off of Genty if you have teams that are trailing. So I kind of think about those two players in tandem.
That's interesting. I think it's also 7 games at in the early window, and then only 2 in the late window, I believe. I haven't double checked this, but I think that's what it is, which is like we have pretty limited late swap options. And I like that call out of like with only 2 options late, like just swapping Genty to Tyrone Tracy if you need to get contrarian, or if you're like playing from ahead, you could play it the opposite way of like I've crushed so far. It can swap. Maybe if you have the salary, you can swap up to a chalkier option in Genty, but that's a really good angle of you're trying to late swap to take advantage of your whatever position you're in, that is a good, one for one that you can consider. Or I guess you'd probably have to consider them with a 2v2 because they are kind of different in salary. But yeah, it's a good shout. Chase Brown, I mean, he's been crushing lately, even with Samaje Perine kind of limiting him somewhat. Nice matchup with the Cardinals. Chase Brown, though, up to 7,400, getting 23% ownership. How are we feeling about Chase Brown?
Yeah, I mean, 30-point implied point total for the Bengals that leads the slate. So it's a good game environment. It's an elite matchup. We said, digging into the schedule, Justin, it's average for quarterbacks, tough for wide receivers, but it's top 3 for running backs. So that's working in his favor. It's good game script. I think he's okay. I think he's probably a little overowned, but then again, if we're talking about a lineup that doesn't have Jamar Chase, doesn't have Joe Burrow, doesn't have Jacoby Brissett, I think he becomes a much stronger play. And really that's just, thinking about lineups that make sense versus the field.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. You can get leverage on the chalkier passing game with Chase Brown. It's like he to me, he looks too expensive for his role. Like he's just like, he does have the better end of the split, but I mean, Samaje Perine 7 carries to Chase Brown's 12. That's not exactly elite volume for Chase Brown. Did have 4 targets last week on 47% route participation, but the matchup probably is good enough that I'm willing to play some. And I like your angle of mostly not playing it with Joe Burrow. I think that makes sense. What do you think of the other end of that game? Michael Carter, 5,200 projected for 9% ownership. I mean, we've just been slamming running backs against the Bengals all year. Is it going to be any different with Michael Carter?
I don't think so. Jake and I tried to make the argument for it. There just hasn't been any upside whatsoever from this Arizona Cardinals backfield. But hey, maybe this is like, the best leverage play of the slate. But yeah, we ended up writing a blurb and just neither of us felt great about it. So we cut him from the slate breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, 11 carries last week. That's not exactly great. 2 targets on 51.5% rep participation. That's a pretty high rep participation, but yeah, it's tough to get really enthusiastic about it relative to running backs against the Bengals. I think that I will have. I've not talked about him at all this week, and now that I'm like, but he has only 9% ownership at 5,200, and just like running backs against the Bengals, if he played every week, it worked out most of the time.
It's a tough slate. It's a tough slate
for
running backs and wide receivers, even tougher maybe. But so yeah, I won't fault anyone for playing some Michael Carter in a great matchup.
Yeah. Then if we're going in tandem, we're going with games. We got Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne, the 2 next up after Chase Brown in terms of ownership. JT at 21% projected ownership, Travis Etienne 18%. Etienne's price coming up, but he's been playing really well. Jonathan Taylor playing with Phillip Rivers now. We haven't seen quite the same ceiling, but still 7,800 now, 21% ownership. How are we feeling about the running backs in this game?
I kind of have no interest in Jonathan Taylor. I mean, maybe he makes sense as leverage off of a chalky Trevor Lawrence, but I don't really see the Colts winning this game. And he's we always said Derrick Henry, the most game script sensitive player in fantasy football history. Jonathan Taylor takes that up a notch this year. He's averaging like 38 fantasy points per game in wins and like 9 in losses. So he's not someone I'm playing. And I don't think he really strikes fear into my heart now playing with Rivers. Travis Etienne, you can make a case for sure. Averages 20.1 DraftKings fantasy points per game over his last 6 games. Basil Tutin's out, so he should get just about 100% of the work. Good game script. Slate's 3rd highest implied point total. No DeForest Buckner this week. Sauce Gardner back, so maybe it's a little bit less of a pass funnel than it's been. But you're talking about paying $7,000 more for a running back. I think there's running backs in that range with more upside that gets me excited.
Okay. Bucky Irving is 6,200 going up against Miami. How are we feeling about Bucky Irving?
Not on my list either. Just really has underwhelmed since he came back. More of a committee. Doesn't get me excited.
Yeah, it seems like he's got a pretty good role, but he gives up goal line stuff and he gives up passing game stuff. So it's like it's not that great of a role. It's like it's good but not great. Nice matchup with Miami in terms of schedule adjusted over the past 5. I guess there's that going for him. I think Buck Irving fine, but he's getting some ownership. What about Saquon? I mean, you like playing some Josh Allen. Would Saquon be your preferred bring back in that game, as we've been kind of playing running backs against the Bills all year, and that's been going pretty well? How would you feel about Saquon?
Yeah, I think he's a great play. I think he's an awesome play. I think that's going to be one of my big angles this week. Outside of Josh Allen lineups, and I'm not even sure I'll have a Josh Allen lineup. I expect to be heavy on Saquon and James Cook. Argument for Saquon, very close spread. Eagles could win this game. Saquon really struggled throughout most of the year, but he's been running hot these past 3 weeks. And then this is just a matchup we've always exploited. This is something that's made me a lot of money over the years, is opposing running backs versus the Bills, because this is a defense that intentionally invites the run and running backs destroy them. It's really only a matter of, if the Bills are up by multiple scores, that the opposition has to abandon the run. But again, this is a close spread. Opposing RB1s are averaging 25.1 DraftKings fantasy points per game against the Bills in games the Bills haven't won by multiple scores. So you don't even need the Eagles to win. You just need this to be somewhat close. And so I see a lot of upside here. Buffalo, by the way, down 2 defensive tackles, Daquan Jones, Jordan Phillips. So that helps the matchup for Saquon. So I like him. But I also like, on non-Saquon lineups, I like James Cook a lot, because that's like another one of our rules is target low-owned running backs against the Bills. The other is, whenever James Cook isn't chalk, I want a ton of exposure. That has made me a ton of money over the years. Or, I mean, even last week, like that was one of the few things I got dead right. And so we prefer to play him in spots with a high spread. In close spread spots, it looks like a game where Buffalo needs Josh Allen to be Superman, and then Josh Allen's almost always Superman. But you never know. Maybe they just get out to a lead early, then it's the James Cook show. The head coach told us, or the offensive coordinator told us in the summer, they were going to take it easy on him until December and January. And you've really seen since December, he sort of Freaky Friday'd with Jonathan Taylor, getting elite utilization, a ton of volume. He's been incredibly productive. And so, Buffalo also been very run heavy of late. Eagles, a run funnel matchup on paper, although they do get Jalen Carter back, which, doesn't help. But I still don't think this is a bad matchup by any means.
I think I missed the period where they were taking it easy on James Cook. It feels like he's just been crushing all year. It's
just post these tournament winning scores. Yeah. Well, I mean, earlier in the year, it was like, he would get like 14 carries, but 2 of those would be 60-yard touchdown runs. And now he's getting like Jonathan Taylor usage.
Interesting. Kenneth Gainwell projected for 13% ownership at 5,600. We also have Dylan Sampson potentially on the other side of that game. Unclear if he's going to play, but I'm curious if you are going to Gainwell, if you like Jalen Warren at all, and thoughts on Dylan Sampson.
I wouldn't go to Warren. I do kind of like Gainwell. This isn't a player I would typically be excited to play. I don't like these committee backs, but he's been awesome, man. He over his last 6 games, 95 yards from scrimmage per game, 19 fantasy points per game on only 13.8 touches per game. And so that hyper efficiency would typically scare me. But the utilization hasn't been that bad. 14% target share or better in 5 of his last 6, top 12 in XFP per game. No DK Metcalf, maybe he gets even more passing game work. So, I think he's a good value, a little bit unexciting, maybe question the upside. And I think you could say something similar for Dylan Sampson, something close to bell cow usage, but how much is that really worth on the Browns? Probably not a lot.
Yeah, it's a 5,100. The price tag is nice. We've seen it a couple times, but not exactly my favorite play. Somebody I'll probably just sprinkle in a bit. Devin Achane is 12% projected ownership. We've talked about a lot of running backs kind of in that price range. How are we feeling about Achane against the Bucks?
Yeah, I really like Achane. I'm surprised he's only 12% when, you know, there's really no other priced running backs that excite me. I certainly like him way more than Jonathan Taylor. You could say his volumes come down a little bit since the bye. You could say, he does a lot better with Tua under center as opposed to any other quarterback. But I mean, this is a great matchup on paper. People think the Buccaneers have a tough run defense, I guess, because Vita Vea's PR is elite. But by our data, this is actually a really good matchup on the ground, and Achane has just been absolutely unbelievable this year. It's also a good matchup through the air. I'd feel more confident in it if it was Tua, but one of the highest target per route run rates in the league against the blitz, which we know Bowles blitzes at one of the highest rates in the league. And so, yeah, him and James Cook are just two guys have been balling out. And it seems really odd that they're only 12% when you have Ash and Ginty, who sucked all year, at 50%. So that's going to be one of my leans, is maybe try and get unique and find a way to pay up for these running backs.
Yeah, I like that. Trevion Henderson practiced non-contact on Friday, but still apparently has not actually passed concussion protocol. So it's unclear what's going on with the Patriots. I'm curious to hear if you have interest in Trevion, but then also Ramondre, is he contingent for you on Trevion being out? Would you have interest in Ramondre even if Trevion is in? How are you playing the Patriots running backs?
This, as always, I think is one of those things where I don't know, and we'll know more on Sunday morning. You're going to get a Jake Glazer or an Ian Rappaport say something like, I'm told Trevion Henderson will play, but expect a lighter workload this week but right now, in a vacuum, if Henderson's out, I think Stevenson is one of the best values on the slate. Where, if it isn't Drake May going nuclear, Ramondre should hit value, in my opinion. But if Trevion plays, I think I don't really have much interest in Ramondre. And I think Trevion's interesting. I think he's a pretty solid milli play. Certainly for MME guys, I'd want to be overweight. So just given his big play potential and a great spot.
I think in the absence of any kind of like indication of what they're going to do, I'm going to have interest in Ramondre Stevenson either way. I think it sounds like I'll have more interest than you will just from the like, without hearing it. I think there's just that potential of they don't want to risk Trevion Henderson with their Super Bowl aspirations. So I think that's going to be maybe a Neil last play. If Trevion ends up playing Ramondre, it might be a Neil last play for me. Just given the matchup, they like Ramondre anyway, but I think they'll want to protect Trevion potentially. So that might be an angle that I play a bit regardless. I don't know if there's any other running backs that I absolutely love on the slate. Are there for you? I mean, I know Kenneth Walker is your boy, and he had the blow up game.
He's not my boy. He's dead to me, Neil. What are you?
Oh, he's dead to you. He was once upon a time. He was your boy. You convinced me. Hey, you convinced me to draft him a lot in best ball, and guess what? I got two teams to the DraftKings best ball final.
No way.
With Kenneth Walker in both of them.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the week 16 did help out. So
that might be unique. I don't know how many teams have Kenneth Walker. That
more actually than you'd think, and it's because it's a lot of sharp people drafted him. I think because he everything indicated that he was going to be great. So but yeah, it
was either him or JSN was going to have a record breaking year, and it was not the one I went all in on.
No, yeah. So we're not playing them against Carolina. I mean, tougher defense this year.
I'm not doing that. I always try and write up at least one sub 5.5% owned player at each position for the running back position. I went with Tony Pollard. I'm getting some like 2021 Rashad Penny light vibes. He's hit the 100-yard bonus in each of his last 3 games. Averages 22 DraftKings fantasy points per game over that span. Tennessee, just the most run-heavy offense over that span. The Saints are the second biggest run funnel in the league since week 7. Tennessee, always massive underdogs, but this is actually a close spread spot. So, he's a fine value. He's a fine contrarian play for tournaments.
Okay. Anybody else? I mean, do we like Tony Pollard? Do we believe in what Tony Pollard is doing lately? Playing against the Saints, potentially bring back on some shuck stacks. Do we like Tony Pollard at all? Anybody else you want to talk about?
You just have a brain fart? I was just talking about Tony Pollard. Who do you
think
you
were.
I was talking about?
I thought you were still talking about Kenneth Walker. I was apparently not listening. Apologies.
100 yards in 3 straight? That's not Kenneth Walker. I don't think he's hit 100 yards.
You're right.
3 times all year.
Yeah, my bad.
No,
yes, I did have a brain fart. I was dreaming about another Kenneth Walker blow up.
Bro, I have the worst ADHD. He has 2 100-yard games, one in week 2, one last week. I have the worst ADHD in all my shows, and it's like so obvious. I'm like answering emails, but with you, it's actually not that bad. Maybe it's just because like I have to talk so much on this show.
That's true. I force you to talk most of the show, so you have no choice. Any other running backs you like here?
No.
Nice. All right, let's move on to wide receivers. So
dude,
this
wide receiver is gross.
Yes, it is. Which is probably why we're getting 40% ownership going to Jamar Chase at 8,300. How do we feel about Jamar Chase? And then, of course, we can talk about T. Higgins at the same time, I suppose. Getting 14% at 6,300. Do you like these Bengals receivers?
I think this is worth a conversation. And this is me bouncing ideas off of you. And like, bear in mind, I'm the outside the box guy. I'm the contrarian. Jake, Ryan Heath are more, let's just straight analysis. Who are the best plays? And so I see that 40%. I want to make a devil's advocate argument. I want to get a little weird. I want to get a little crazy. The argument for Jamar Chase is easy. He has the most slate breaking upside of any player on the slate. It's easily the best game environment, over under 5 points above any other game, highest implied point total on the week. In similar spots, he's played in 25 career games with a total of 48.5 or more. He's scored at least 44 DraftKings fantasy points 4 times. He averages 26 DraftKings fantasy points per game. You have this narrative where, I don't know if you saw it, he was asked by a reporter what he wants to do this week and throughout the rest of the year. He said he wants to score a touchdown. He's been overdue since week 7.
Yep. He's
been aware that he hasn't scored since mid-October. And so you look at the numbers that Jamar Chase has been putting up. You could say he's been on a bit of a cold streak, but it's really just maybe touchdown variance, because other than that, he had 109 yards, 132 yards, 44, 110, 30, 111, 91, 161 yards. And then, really good volume in some of these spots, 16 targets, 14, 11, 10. And so, maybe he's a lock to score a touchdown, and then he'll get his 11 targets and the 3-point bonus. But again, we're talking about 40%. And so you could do the math for me, 1.75 times as good of a play as Jackson Smith and Jigba? I don't know. We'll have to talk that out. Is he, 3.5x times as good of a play as T. Higgins? Because I was making the argument that T. Higgins is actually one of the best GPP plays on the entire slate. That's whether you play him with Jamar Chase. Maybe it makes even more sense to fade Chase and play Higgins, because Higgins gets the better schematic matchup. They're equally as efficient against cover 4, which Arizona plays at the league's highest rate, which means that's a boost to Higgins, because normally Chase is more efficient than Higgins. You have a $2K cheaper in price. You have the difference in ownership. And the stat I had was Higgins has outscored Chase in 3 of their last 4 games they've played together. Higgins averages 23.2 DraftKings fantasy points per game over that span. Jake was kind of ripping me in comments for that, where he's like, bro, why do you keep bringing this stat up? We know who these players are. Don't fall victim to a stupid 4-game sample size, which, like, that's a great argument. He really might be right. But when we're talking about 40% versus 14%, I think, like, it's worth fleshing these things out. But like I said, you look at schedule adjusted, it seems like a difficult matchup, but I don't know, Buda Baker out and then 4 more DBs questionable or out, with, you know, an elite game environment. I think this is going to be one of the more important questions of the slate.
Yeah, I tend to be with the field of just like Jamar Chase is going to smash in this spot. Just this is a broken down defense. All they really care about at this point is having fun scoring points. Like they're not trying to win anything. It's like, yeah, they're just like Joe Burrow, just chuck it to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I think I agree with you. T. Higgins at 14% ownership stands out as a particularly strong play, but like I'm probably not going to be that far behind the field if the field's at 40% Jamar Chase. Like it's a gross slate. We don't have a ton to love, and I think that's just a spot that's like, are you surprised if he puts up 40 tomorrow? Are you more surprised if he puts up 40 or more or 15 or less? Like I don't know what the answer is. Like I think that it's about equal odds that he puts up over 40 than it is that he puts up under 15. So yeah, I think Jamar Chase kind of an easy button.
I mean, I kind of disagree there.
You think it's much more likely he puts up under 15?
So you look at his last 5 games, he has lows of 6 and 10.2 DraftKings fantasy points. And so you're talking about 40% ownership. If he does that again, and I understand, you know, Joe Flacco missed one of these games. I forget what happened in the other game, but if that happens again at 40% ownership, that's a huge edge to you if you fade it.
True.
So I don't know. Like I said, this is one of the most important, but also one of the most difficult questions of the slate.
I have to admit that I think that I am like biased in a way. Have you ever played fantasy games with the guys that are like, oh, my team sucks, and like they're just like always negative about their fantasy team and stuff like that, and then you look at it, it's like, that's a great team, what are you talking about? And it's because they're like super nervous about it. I think with this being best ball finals week, I just look at them like, oh, that's going to kill me. My team's dead because it's going to be the Jamar Chase, Trey McBride teams that are going to absolutely destroy me. So I think that I'm like biased in a like just expecting the worst for me this week, and that would be one of not actually the worst because he's not that high owned, but just like the one that I look at, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what's going to win. It's going to be a Joe Burrow stack with.
I mean, that matters, and I would go against that because like I talk about this a lot, and maybe it annoys people or people confused by what I'm doing, but like so much of what I do, what Chris Weck does better than anyone else is separating the emotion, your own cognitive biases from the raw data. Like I listened to Charlie Munger's speech that he gave at Harvard on avoiding cognitive biases, like at least once per year. We talked about this in DMs.
Yeah, I listened to it
once where I think intelligence is overrated. I don't think it's that important. I think once you're like above average in intelligence, like it kind of all means the same, unless you're like a true like literal genius, then it matters a lot. But yeah, because like you'll listen to Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett and the best investors in American history outside of Nancy Pelosi, they'll say that they're never the smartest men in the room, but they're always the best investors in the room. And why is it? It's because they're constantly keeping themselves in check. They're constantly rubbing their own noses in their own mistakes. They're always on watchful guard of falling victim to different cognitive biases. And you know every single cognitive bias. They never step outside the edges of their own competency. And because of that, they're better investors than everyone else, where like someone smarter than them, you know, might overrate their own intelligence and make more mistakes that cost them more money. I don't know if anyone cares about this, but this is one of my little things I like to get on a soapbox about. So
I agree. I think it's really important. And honestly, I think that's one of my better DFS skills in general is separating the emotion from it and just like thinking of the slate. And this slate is so tough for me to separate my emotions from the rest of it. But yeah, I think you're probably right that Jamar Chase, like at 40% owned, like you can get a big edge by fading it and going some different angles. I think it's also like just difficult to find other angles that I fall in love with. I think that is also part of it. It's just like man, this is a tough slate to really find much to love. But maybe you can help me find some of those angles.
I'll tell you what it is when we're building lineups. You're not going to want to hear it, but I can tell you what it is.
You're going to wait till we build lineups though?
Well, I'll just tell you right now. It's
okay.
You have Jamar Chase at 40%. You have Ashton Jeanty at 60%. You have Michael Mayer, I don't know what he's coming in at. If it's over 40, it concerns me. If it's under 40, maybe he's just a good play. But I think it's trying to gain a massive edge on the field by avoiding the obvious mega chalk.
Okay. Yeah.
Like Chase is let's segue into JSN. Chase is an amazing play. Chase is a better play and a better value than JSN, but I don't know that he's twice as good of a player, twice as good. He's not. He's just not. JSN has been more productive this year. JSN averages 3 more DraftKings fantasy points per game. He has 2 more games of 28 plus DraftKings fantasy points. It's a really good schematic matchup, as Ryan Heath detailed. It's a better on paper matchup. But again, I think with the injuries to Arizona, maybe that's not the case. You also do have game script concerns, but like that's been the case for the Seattle curb stomping teams all year. And so, yeah, I think pay up 300 for only a slightly worse play. But you have a lot more leverage on the field in doing so.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. That it's just JSN. Doesn't seem as scary on paper, but like JSN, like they succeeded in so many bad matchups throughout the year. It's been like a little bit down recently, but clearly still has the major upside. So I love that shout of JSN. Jacoby Myers, we kind of skipped over. I know you love T-Law. Is Jacoby Myers your go-to with T-Law?
For cash, I think Jacoby Myers is a great cash play. He kind of just stepped off of a plane and immediately became the team's #1 receiver. I think that's not too surprising, knowing who Trevor Lawrence is, what his strengths and weaknesses are. He really favors the quick game, and that's always been Jacoby Myers, who can get open very quickly. And you see that show up in the first read target share and whatnot. Not worried about Sauce Gardner shadowing him or anything like that. So yeah, great value on the slate, but 27%. I kind of like Parker Washington, I think, as a pivot off of that. Parker Washington has the much better matchup. Colts, one of the biggest slot funnels in the league. And I think that's probably even more the case with Sauce Gardner back. Whenever he's had a full-time role, he sneaky volume. And so what is it? 23% ownership versus 5%. I think that's another angle you can consider. Although for sure Myers is the better value, but I don't even know that Myers has the ceiling to warrant that sort of ownership.
Yeah, I think we haven't really seen a huge ceiling there. The price is low enough, it feels safe, but we finally saw kind of a dud last week, right, for Jacoby Myers. So not a sure thing by any stretch. Patriots missing Mac Hollins, or at least Keyshawn Boutte. I think Mac Hollins maybe is still questionable. I forget which ones are in, which ones are out. Pop Douglas questionable. They're going to be thin at receiver. Does the extra volume go to Diggs, or does that go to does Diggs keep his role and they go to Kyle Williams and Efton Chisholm? How are you feeling about these Patriots receivers?
I don't think we know, just because this has been tricky and confusing and like doesn't really make logical sense. Just because Diggs, I know he's a liability as a run blocker, but still you'd think a higher route share. And he's just been far and away like the best, most efficient receiver on the team, but it just fluctuates wildly, this usage. That being said, though, Mac Hollins, Keyshawn Boutte out, Demario Douglas questionable. I don't know how Diggs doesn't step into a full-time role. And if he does, you have to love him as one of the best plays of the slate. He ranks top 10 at the position in yards per route run, fantasy points per route run. He's cleared a 75% route share only 3 times this year, but he hit 19 DraftKings fantasy points in all 3 of those games. Not at all priced like it. So I like Diggs. And like I said, on FanDuel, I'm just going to start with Drake May and Stephon Diggs as absolute locks, and maybe Hunter Henry as well.
Yeah, should be a big Diggs game. He's only 5,800. Price seems fair. Chris Olave, we established he's in 17% projected ownership. You're going to some Shuck. I know you're going to some Olave with those Shuck lineups, but what's your level of interest in Olave?
I really like him. He was one of our conviction plays last week. Like, yeah, Yeah, him and James Cook were the two things I got right last week. Through the first 10 weeks of the season, before the Devon Veely breakout, he ranked top 10 in fantasy points, was behind only Jamar Chase and XFP. And then you had that little stretch where Veely became a thing. But then he got hurt. He left early fourth quarter of the week before last. And so in the 5 quarters without Veely, Olave has 23 targets, 15 catches, 226 yards, 3 touchdowns. It's a best possible matchup. And so, yeah, I think he's the best. Just talking value, I like him considerably more than Jacoby Myers. So he's a great play.
Talked about loving Jackson Dart. Is it Wandale? Is he going to be your primary receiver with Jackson Dart this week? Do you like Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodgins, anybody else on the Giants?
Yeah. I could also see this projection coming up. I don't know if Chris got the Theo Johnson news, which just came in today or not. So it's possible he doesn't even higher. I'm probably, going to lock in Wandale for my Dart lineups. I don't know that I'll have any non-Dart lineups. And again, I'm only like a 3 to 5 lineup guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been solid. If you write off last week's game as a total outlier, which it was, then he averages 10 targets, 109 air yards, 18.1 XFP per game over his last 3 games. Those are all easy top 5 numbers. He has more deep targets per game than Puka Nacua this year. So it's an entirely different role. It's an ideal cover 3 heavy matchup. That's perfect for him. Maybe the Raiders are tanking. He also does better when Jackson Dart. Actually, I don't know that stat is right, but yeah, it's he's a good play, and he's a great play for Jackson Dart lineups.
What about the other side of that game? Trey Tucker, got Jack Besh kind of playing more and more of a role lately. What are we doing with these Las Vegas wide receivers? Trey Tucker is getting some ownership, 15%, but then Jack Besh, I think a little bit sneakier. I feel like there's a third one that I'm forgetting. Maybe I'm just thinking of Michael Mayer, but how are we feeling about anybody on the Raiders?
Yeah, I'm just not going to go there. I don't have trust in the Raiders. I mean, like the one exception is Michael Mayer, who's 2,500 and is a lock for an 80% route share and a 22% target share. So, but yeah, I mean, if you're looking for leverage, Trey Tucker did have that one game where he scored 43 DraftKings fantasy points. That's rare upside for the price tag. Jack Besh also did better. Like that one game where he saw the big route share, target share spike. Go to target share. Or route share. No, route share is fine. Okay. Yeah, type in Raiders. The one game I remember with him breaking out was a game without. Okay, so I guess it's been up the whole time. But the target share game, I think it was a game Michael Mayer was out, and their tight end 3, whoever that was, got hurt in the game, and so maybe he benefits more because. The way he's being used in the short to intermediate with a lot of yak is sort of how Bowers is being used. So, you know what? That's not bad at all. It's kind of no kidding. It's kind of a 4-week sample size. So, hey, I think I think you've kind of stumbled on something. I think he's an interesting.
I didn't stumble on it. I did research into this. Come on now.
Yeah, more than me, apparently. He, good leverage off of Mayer. I have a leverage play I like more, which we'll get into, but I won't hate on that. That's a nice Neil-ass play you got there.
Thank you. Okay. You're not in on Baker Mayfield, or do you like any of his pass catchers, or are they all kind of fades for you also?
No, I like Mike Evans. I just like T. Higgins more at lesser ownership and $200 in savings. Evans leads the league in targets per route run since he came back. He's had a target share of at least 25% in every game he's played in full. 19 XFP per game would rank second best. So it looks like a good value based on all that. 2 weeks ago, he was really productive, had like 163 catchable air yards, which is elite. But again, I just kind of don't trust Baker. T. Higgins, you have that 30-point implied point total. So That's going to be one of my leans this week, but that's me. Again, defer to the slate breakdown, which is more of a team effort between myself, Ryan Heath, Chris Wack, Jake Tribby, who are all, some of our parts greater than just me. So, but for me, I'll just play Higgins.
We have 2 games with Phillip Rivers. I think the conclusion after the first game was Alec Pierce is dead. You can just play the guys that are going to get targeted 5 yards down the field. And then Alec Pierce had the big blow-up game. Do you have interest in anybody on the Colts?
Yeah, we kind of debated everyone and then settled on Josh Downs as our favorite. He's coming off of back-to-back season highs in route share, 7.0 targets per game over that span. Colts should be forced to pass this week, 6.5 point underdogs. And then the Jaguars are just one of the top 5 biggest slot funnels, especially over the last 5 weeks. And I think people are going to forget about Josh Downs because, he didn't do anything up until 2 weeks ago, but Josh Downs is awesome. Like his numbers were incredible last year. It's really just a usage thing with, because they have so many really good receivers. And that's why you have a literal grandfather playing really well. And so, you could kind of go different directions, but I think we all kind of agreed Downs was our favorite. So he was the only one I wrote up.
Okay. Are we going to either of these Cardinals receivers, Michael Wilson or Marvin Harrison? You talked about liking a leverage play. I thought potentially could be one of these with Trey McBride getting a lot of ownership. Unclear who's the top receiver on the Cardinals. I tend to think it's Marvin Harrison, but maybe you disagree. Do you like either of Michael Wilson or Marvin Harrison?
Well, again, DJ Turner has been elite this year. He's going to shadow, we think, Marvin Harrison Jr., who's also dealing with a heel injury. He's officially listed as questionable. He only had a 55% route share last week. Maybe that comes back up to a full-time, maybe not. And so I think you could play Michael Wilson either way. I'm probably not going to, but you could make the case that he'll benefit from the DJ Turner shadow, or you could say Harrison's going to be limited. If Harrison's out, then he becomes a great play just because he turns into Puka Nacua in any game. Right. Marvin Harrison Jr. is out. But remember, with the Bengals, typically it's running backs, and the Cardinals don't have running backs, more or less, and tight ends. And we happen to have like the best tight end ever. So there is that as well. And I do think Michael Wilson probably plays. So I'm probably just avoiding it, but you do get leverage off of a chalky Trey McBride, and I could see it happening, but I'm not going to go there myself.
All right, I'll open it up to you. You said that you have a Neil last play that you like. I think that was at wide receiver. Am I wrong about that?
You're wrong about that.
Oh, okay.
Well,
okay.
Maybe it's a little ambiguous, but
okay.
I'll let you know when it's coming up. I will say AJ Brown, Devonta Smith are interesting at lower ownership. People are neglecting them. This game, I think, has underrated shootout potential. Devonta Smith has the superior on paper matchup, the superior schematic matchup. But I mean, AJ Brown has just been on fire after starting off the season really cold over his last 5 games. He
told us to drop him in fantasy. He said, if I'm on your fantasy team, drop me.
What a jerk. And then as soon as you would have listened, he's really turned it around. He did miss a bunch of practice with wisdom teeth removal.
Yeah.
But double-digit targets in 4 of his last 5, 95 plus yards in 4 of his last 5. So there's good upside there. Not super high on my list, but actually maybe should be a little higher. But just good upside relative to ownership.
All right, who else? And any other wide receivers?
It isn't like on paper, this wouldn't be the spot where you play AJ Brown against Buffalo, who sells out to stop the deep ball. So maybe that's just more of an MME play.
Okay.
And then the Ask God. I think he just deserves like a little shout out. Not super high on my list, but usage has been really strong. Last 4 weeks, he's top 12 in air yards, targets, target share. It's a good matchup on paper. And they should be plenty of garbage time.
Yeah, bring back on those Drake May stacks. Makes sense.
But he's fine. Nothing spectacular. I don't think anyone we talked about for the past 10 minutes was spectacular.
Did you talk about Kyle Williams? I know we talked about loving Diggs in this slate. Williams 3,300. Anybody else you really want to talk about?
Last time we played Kyle Williams, it worked out excellently for us.
Yeah, we can do it again.
I don't think so.
Okay,
I think
I'll have some, I think, but yeah, I mean, he's never been a full-time player. I think that's like he's had his spike weeks on like usually just like one reception, but like he has. I guess I take it back. He was a full-time player in that game. This is a nice enough matchup. I'm intrigued for GPPs at 3% ownership. I'll certainly have some, but
yeah.
Any others?
I mean, 3,300. That's if he gets one of those 72-yard touchdown catches like he did, that's a nice little advantage.
Yeah, I guess you're playing Josh Allen. Are you playing any Khalil Shakir or any other Bills?
No, I would play a Packers wide receiver. Sorry, what am I saying? A Eagles receiver, maybe even both, before I play any of these Bills.
Okay. Anybody else?
No.
All right, let's move on to tight ends. Interestingly, Trey McBride is third in terms of ownership at 18%. We've got Michael Mayer at 21% at the min price 2,500, Hunter Henry 4,500, and then Tyler Warren is fourth. Actually, I guess he's tied with Juwan Johnson. Let's start with the top three: Michael Mayer, Hunter Henry, Trey McBride. Good chalk, bad chalk. How do we feel about these three?
Great chalk. Mayer and McBride are elite chalk. Henry's okay.
Henry surprises me a little bit. I did not see that.
I would say optimal should be something like 45% Mayer, 45% McBride, something like that.
Yeah, just forget everybody else.
And you would just be intentional about fading on the other. Mayer, the two games with him, without Bowers, 80% route share, 22.5% target share, something like that. You're just talking about 2,500. That's just terrific value. And then Trey McBride, this is literally a matchup we've had circled for weeks. We've been talking about it in the Everything Report since like week 7. McBride on pace to have the third best fantasy tight end season ever. He's really indistinguishable from JSN Jamar Chase since Jacoby Brissett took over. He's not priced like it. He's not drawing anywhere near as much ownership despite having the best possible matchup. The Bengals are giving up the most fantasy points per game to tight ends we've seen in over a decade. It's like 33% more than the next closest defense. So yeah, that's a great angle is, 40% Jamar Chase. Why not 18% Trey McBride?
Yeah. Give me all the Trey McBride. Totally with you on that. Love McBride at 7,500. Michael Mayer, I'm like, I go back and forth on whether that's good chalk. He's min priced, but he's also Michael Mayer.
Michael Mayer is awesome. Michael Mayer is the best backup tight end in football by far. I had this crazy stat. It was only 2 Power 5 tight ends have ever had multiple 1,000-yard seasons in college, and it was Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. Although Oronde Gatson joined the list last year, and it was just like by happenstance they were on the same team. Like Mayer would be an awesome fantasy asset if he, the best tight end of all time wasn't ahead of him on the depth chart.
I'm just still bitter because I drafted a ton of Michael Mayer in best ball last year when nobody else was drafting him, and then he was just like out for no unexplained reasons for most of the year. So I'm just still like, this guy. But you're right. He's actually a talented tight end. There was a reason I loved him in the first place. Tyler Warren, I mean, theoretically,
here's what I'll say about this: Hunter Henry, Tyler Warren, Juwan Johnson, Harold Fannin, Taysom Hill. I wrote them all up. They're all on the slate breakdown. You could read that. They're fine. But like I said, to me, it's Hunter Henry, Trey McBride. I mean, they're all good. They're like legitimately good. But like if they were drawing Gene T Chase ownership, it'd be a different story. They're not. So I personally plan to come in way overweight. And then we haven't yet got to my Neil Ass play of the week.
Is it a tight end?
He's kind of a tight end.
Oh my God.
He's officially a tight end.
Taysom Hill. Okay.
No.
What? Okay. Officially a tight end. Okay. Let me try to get. So he's listed as a tight end on DraftKings.
Yeah.
Officially a tight end. And he's in the last play. Oh God. Let's see.
He was a wide receiver in college. He led the team in targets last week with 8. He led the team in receiving yards last week with 91.
Did I miss like a huge? Oh, is it Gunnar Helm?
He has the best matchup of the week.
Elijah Higgins.
There you go.
Okay.
I want to say Ryan doesn't agree with me on this. Jake doesn't agree with me on this. Chris doesn't agree with me on this. I like this. I think this is interesting. I think this is really so pull up the route share report because this is where it gets tricky. And this is why they disagree is so he's been over 60% all 3 weeks, but Marvin Harrison Jr. was out, and then limited in his return. Again, he's questionable dealing with a heel injury. And they're like, yeah, but I mean, what if Marvin Harrison Jr. is back to 80% and we barely see Higgins? We're talking about 2,500, 1% ownership and a best possible matchup where the Bengals are giving up the most fantasy points per game to tight ends, but also like far and away the most to tight end twos, where Dawson Knox went nuclear. Darnell Washington had a season high. Austin Hooper had a season high. I don't know, 2 other random tight end. Isaiah Likely had over 90 yards. And so if I'm wrong and Trey McBride is uber chalk, I think Higgins is interesting. I think you could double stack Higgins and Trey McBride just because this is on paper, this is like the sort of matchup you get once every 20 years. You kind of want to take advantage of it. This is, though, a very Galaxy brain play. This is very a Neil-ass play where if I'm an MME bro, I'm not playing more than, I don't know, 7-10%. But it is one I didn't hear anywhere else. And so I like it. I think it's kind of sneaky and interesting.
You've convinced me. I'm into it.
I
like this
let's go.
I'm going to get to some. Yeah. I had not seen that he was up over 75% rep participation with Marvin Harrison going last week. Yeah. It's,
dude, and just promising. Look at what he did last week. He led the team in targets. He led the team in yards.
Yeah. I like it.
Leverage off of McBride if you want it. If not, you could play them together. I leverage off of Mayer if you want it because they're the same price.
Right. No, I like it. I'm into it.
All right, Taysom Hill is going to have like 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns and 3 receiving touchdowns. But
now I got to figure out where can I find this game. There's too many slates going on. But it'll be the biggest prizes. Nope. Best ball, fantasy football millionaire. Is this the one? This is this slate. Okay, we're good. All right. We're ready to build. So we want to do Jackson Dart, and I think I want to try to do a Joe Burrow double stack with McBride. See if we can make that work. Maybe we'll throw Higgins onto that one. I think those are the 2 that we have to make, and then we can make a third. All right. Let's start with your Dart lineup. So who do you want in your Dart lineup?
Wandale Mayer.
Where is he? Oh, there he is. Okay. Okay.
For a Millie, I'm not going to play Gene T on a Millie lineup. If we're talking about a double spy or a red zone, I mean, yeah, but I don't think there's any justification for Millie.
Should we get Saquon in there?
What are we going to do with? Are we going to do any Bengals and Cardinals players on it?
We're going to be doing a full Bengals stack with the next one, so we could go a different direction if you wanted to. We could throw Higgins in there in the flex if you wanted to. Elijah Higgins. I mean,
we can call Michael Carter a leverage play if we wanted. We could.
I don't hate Michael Carter. I think that I'm actually I've been.
I know you like him, and I'm not going to have him otherwise.
Should we do it?
Sure. All right.
Well, we do have plenty of salary too, so if we want to throw like Barkley or Cook in here, we could.
I do. Yeah, that was one of my rules is I want Barkley or Cook. What's the cheaper defense
of those two? Buffalo
I'm
and
just curious. Yeah.
Eagles are 2,600.
Okay, just curious. Oh, this is a great double tight end week, by the way. It's like an elite double tight end week. Yeah, so I would play one of those running backs. Whichever one you want is fine with me.
All right, I'll go. I like Barkley better, I think.
Okay.
All right, and then still have plenty of salary.
I would throw a cheap defense just to give me a better sense of what's going on here.
What about Browns? Maybe they've given up too much. Titans.
I think Browns are good.
Giants also seems like a pretty
Giants,
good.
Yeah, Giants are really good.
Let's do. All right, we'll try Giants.
We don't have GT, so that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Chris Olave, Stephon Diggs. Probably one of those two guys I'm going to have a lot of.
Diggs. I mean, we could go. All right, let's see.
Can we McBride in the flex? Can we do that?
Yep. Leaves us enough for Olave.
And then can we go up from Carter? I don't want two Arizona guys, or maybe because we don't have any Bengals. But
Tyrone Tracy, but then we got two.
I say Gainwell, right?
Oh yeah, Gainwell is, but he's too expensive. He's 5,600 now.
Okay, how much was Higgins?
Elijah?
Yeah.
30,
no, T Higgins. I'm sorry.
Oh, I think he's 64. Let's see, 63.
Okay, so we couldn't go up from Diggs to Higgins. Okay, yeah, throw Carter back, I would say.
Okay. We could move up from the Giants if you don't want to play them against Michael Mayer.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So the lineup is Jackson Dart with Wan'Dale Robinson, Michael Mayer bring back. We also have the Giants defense. Michael Carter, Saquon Barkley, Stephon Diggs, Chris Olave, Michael Mayer, and Trey McBride. Beauty. There we go. Lineup number 1. All right, we're going to do another one. And now I want to start with the full-on. I want to see how we can make this work with the full-on Burrow double. I have not tried this yet. And it seems like putting Higgins in here is an easy way to do it. Just like
I'm getting attacked by spam commenters.
Oh no!
Never seen
you
that.
Specifically or the Fantasy Sports channel.
We are. Yeah.
Oh shoot!
But Thomas keeps banning them, so we have that going for us.
Good for him.
Throw Giants defense in there for.
Yep.
Oh, Tracy has GT leverage. Stack it with the Giants
that
defense.
Works.
Why not?
Boom. Then we have 5,300 left over. Probably need a cheap wide receiver.
Downs was a guy we liked. We talked about.
Yeah, where's Downs?
He was right there.
He might not be cheap enough. Oh, he's
4,200.
Oh, okay. So if we do that, then we have enough for Trevion Henderson, Bucky Irving. We could do Ashton Genty in this one, although we have Giants defense right now.
I'm trying to think this out.
Could do Trey Tucker instead of Josh Downs.
That's what our projections like, but
that would allow us to get up to Jalen Warren, not that much.
What about I'm almost there. What about Gainwell? I mean, we could play Tracy, but I mean not Tracy, Travion. That's like a fine play. But what about let's just see what Gainwell and then a different wide receiver looks like.
Instead of Downs?
Yeah. I don't think there's any good 5K, right?
Godwin, Pittman, Pierce.
No one.
AD Mitchell. Yeah, not great.
So I would flip it and go back to what we had. I think that was solid. I think when we talked about him, I said Travion was an elite millie play.
Yeah. There you go. We got Joe Burrow, double stack with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, double bring back with Trey McBride and Elijah Higgins. We've got Tyrone Tracy with the Giants defense, Trevion Henderson one off, Josh Downs one off. Beauty. All right. Do we want to make one more or call it?
Yeah.
All right. We're doing one more here. Do you have an idea already of what you'd like to do?
Let's just be really weird. Let's do a Mayor Higgins.
Okay. Going super cheap. Okay.
Let's do Chase Brown for the leverage. Let's do let's do another Tracy Giants for Gene T leverage.
Okay.
Let's do I'm just sorting by ownership. Let's do Parker Washington as a Myers pivot.
We have so much salary left over though.
All right, let's do Drake May and Diggs. Or actually, fuck it. No. Sorry for cursing. Let's do Josh Allen, AJ Brown.
Okay.
10,000. All right.
We can swap off Parker Washington or swap up to one of running backs.
Yeah,
JSN.
Let's move off Tracy because Tracy kind of sucks. He's just good leverage. Achan. And boom, Chris Olave. That's nice.
There you go.
This
Josh
is a
Allen.
fun lineup.
Josh Allen, naked, going to be spreading the ball around, running it a lot. Chase Brown, Devin Achan, Parker Washington, AJ Brown, Chris Olave, Michael Mayer, Elijah Higgins, Giants defense. There you go. We got the Josh Allen with the bring back, but no direct stack, and then kind of a lot of. I mean, we got Giants versus Michael Mayer, so like some like slight negative correlation there. Not a ton of correlation. Just playing the best plays in this one.
I thought that was like our best correlated lineup we've made all year.
This one?
Yeah.
Josh Allen with AJ Brown. There's some correlation there.
Yeah. So it's no one's playing the
Brown
only quarterback in the slate with 50-point upside. No one's playing the guy who's hit the 100-yard bonus in 4 of his last 5. You're fading a 40% owned Jamar Chase. You're gaining leverage off of a 60% on Gene T by playing the defense. I think this is a good outside the box lineup.
It's very outside the box. Let's win a milli with it. How about that? We'll win a milli with this lineup. Love it.
You've convinced me.
All right, we deal. Okay. All right, we are going to get out of here. But first, Scott, I have to ask you about that football. Is that a football with legs?
Yeah, my wife got it for me many months ago. It's called a Jellycat. It's, if you know any teenage girls, my goddaughter is like 14, 15 years old. She's obsessed with Jellycats. So it's it's the new Beanie Babies, I guess.
All right, that's cool. I like it. Cool football. All right, Scott, where else? What else do you have coming out this week for the people?
I have the Johnny Show tomorrow, and I have a lot of teams in my fantasy championships. And what about you?
Yeah, I'll have my Sunday Night Football article out tomorrow at Fantasy Points. Of course, didn't even tell people about the early bird special. Make sure you take advantage of the early bird special at Fantasy Points right now. What do they need to do to take advantage of that? I mean, it just applies to everything, right? So you can use promo code OTB15. Early bird special automatically is going to be.
I actually don't know that we have any active promo codes right now.
Oh, we don't.
Because of the early bird special. But yeah, it's 20% off. If you're a current sub, gives you 20% off. If you're a brand new sub, we won't double charge you. If you're a brand new sub, 20% off any package. Cheapest will be all year, and the subscription is good until March 2027. So that's a pretty long time.
That's a great deal. Yeah, sign up for the early bird special at Fantasy Points. Scott will be on tomorrow in the Fantasy Points Discord with Johnny. Look out for my article tomorrow night for Sunday Night Football, and let us know if you win some money. We always love hearing from you guys. If you win a big amount of money, you can win yourself some Fantasy Points merchandise. Just let us know about your lineup. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good luck on Sunday. We'll see you next week.
What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.